Hello, it's Jay here again, and welcome to this new tutorial series where we create a flashlight. So this is going to be a little bit more in depth than probably what you've seen before, hopefully. So we're going to create a flashlight that you can switch on and off, obviously. We're also going to have battery pickups. That will come later. We'll have a low and high intensity for the flashlight, and we'll also have things like flickering when the batteries get low. So it's going to be fairly in-depth. And we'll begin by creating a new script. But first, we'll need a scene to actually test out the script, but we'll do that later. Once we've actually got some code to test. So I'll right click, create and mono behavior script, and we will just call this flashlight, and then we'll open it up for editing. Now we have the script open, we'll need to start by creating the variables we're going to use. So I'll begin with private light underscore flashlight, and we'll close the line off. Into the comments defines naming convention for our light component. Private, and we want to type audio source underscore flashlight audio. Into the comments defines naming convention for the audio component. In fact, I'll put it with this one. We'll create a type public this time, and we want to type audio clip underscore switch. Close that off. Into the comments we'll say create slot in inspector to assign an audio clip for the flashlight switch. And now we're going to create a few more variables. So how we're going to do this is once we've actually brought the light into the scene, rather than actually if I just add a light to the main camera just for now. So of course we have a bunch of variables we can adjust here. But what we're going to do is we're not going to actually adjust it here. We're going to adjust it in the code itself. So what we're going to do, that's the reason why this is private. We're going to grab the flashlight or the light component that we've called flashlight, and then we're going to manipulate it within the script. So let me just remove that component because we're not going to use that. That is just, I was just doing that for demonstration. So I'm going to make these all of type public, and they're all going to be of type float. And we'll begin with the first one, low power intensity. And we'll set that to equal 3F. Now we're setting all these floats as public. Of course you can make them private, but we're going to have them as public to begin with so we can adjust the values. I know you're probably all going to be using this flashlight within all different projects. So this will just allow you to be able to experiment easier. Defines our low power intensity. Public float, we're going to say low power spot angle, and we'll make that equal to 40F. Defines our low power spot angle. And finally, of type public float, low power range. And let's make that equal to 30, and again the F. So we're making these floats even though they're whole numbers. So if you do want to adjust them to a 0.5 value, you can do with no issues. Now what we're going to do is copy those three, and we'll just paste it in below. And all we're going to do is change low to high. And then we'll adjust this value. So, yeah, like some games have where you can have like flashlight boost. That is what the high power is for. We'll narrow the spot angle, we'll half that at 20, and the range, let's give it a little bit more range, around 45 should do. And I'll just tidy up the comments, and of course remembering to change it to high there also. So because we have 2 levels of intensity, we're going to need 2 levels of drain. So public float gain underscore low drain battery speed. I'll make that 2 actually. I'll just make that around 2. And into the comments, defines our low power battery drain speed. And we'll copy that again. And again, we'll change that to high. I'll give this a value of 5. And again, I'll just change low to high in the comments. And we'll create 2 more public floats. So just before you run out of battery, we're going to have the flashlight flicker. So we're going to set a max flicker speed. And we'll make that equal to 1F. So this is going to work a little bit different we're not going to have two flicker rates for low and high power. But what we want to do is the flicker is obviously going to turn on and off the flashlight, and I wanted to interpolate between these two values. So I'm just create the min flicker speed now, and that's going to equal 0f. Now please do not worry if you don't understand what I meant just then. In fact, we'll make this 0.1. I will explain it in more detail when we actually come to implement this in the rest of the code. And let's create a type public float maximum battery power, and we'll make that equal to 100F. And we'll do our minimum battery power, which is obviously going to equal 0F. Actually, I'll put this with the flicker speed, so we'll say public float for the flashlight flicker. We can actually make this one in, so I think we will do battery power modifier, and we'll make that equal to 10. Battery power modifier for the flicker, and then I'll come to the bottom here and we'll create of type public and again of type float underscore battery bar length. And we don't need a value for that because it's going to be modified depending on our current battery power, so we can leave that blank. And we'll say defines our battery bar length. So this is for the GUI, so we actually have a reference point. There's no point in having things like battery power drain if we can't see it on screen. I'll put for the GUI in the comment as well. And I'll create a type public bool underscore display GUI. And we'll put this into the comments, define if display GUI is enabled or not. So why have this? I realise that some of you may prefer your games with a minimal HUD. This will give you an option to switch on and off the GUI too, so I think that will be helpful for some people at least. Yeah, we'll make these all public. So, in fact, before I go any further, obviously you may look at these and say, well, some of these can be changed to an int. Some will want to remain as float. And some of these can obviously be set to private. We'll do that once we've actually got it up and working. I like to keep a lot of things public just so you can see when we do have a player character we can attach light to, just so you can actually see the script working and grabbing certain components, and obviously you're able to see all of these actually being displayed working correctly. So yeah, basically I'm doing this so it makes it easier for you guys to actually see things working correctly. So with that said, I've created a public vector2 and we've named that with an underscore texture size, and that's going to equal a new vector2. We're going to open and close brackets, close the line off, and we'll set this to 150, 15. And into the comments defines the flashlight GUI size, and let's create type public, and we'll want texture 2D, and we'll call this background texture. Into the comments, create slot in inspector to assign the background texture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that in twice. So we'll come to the first one down, background texture, and let's change this to battery bar empty. And I'll just change that into the comments as well. And obviously, we're going to change this for battery bar again. And we'll just say max texture this time. And we're going to say public GUI, and we want skin underscore. We're going to call this flashlight GUI skin. Close that off. Defines naming convention for our flashlight skin. In fact, I'll put GUI skin in there. So, despite this being public, the reason why I've not put creates a slot in the inspector is, again, we're going to grab this via code. Why not assign these in the inspector? Well, of course you can do that, and it makes things much easier. But when I program, I like to do as much as I can with just code itself, just because it teaches you something else while also learning the whole script. It's just another skill to have. and it can be handy for other things as well. So with that said, let's come and we're going to create a type private, and we'll call this flashlight state underscore flashlight state. Close that off. So defines naming convention for our flashlight state. Just fix that typo there. Don't worry about the red error. We're going to fix that now. And we're going to create the flashlight states. We're going to say private enum. And we will actually, flashlight state. Now it must be exactly the same here. And it is case sensitive, that's why I paused for a minute then. I couldn't remember if I used a capital or lowercase l. I've used the lowercase l throughout, I believe, so we'll keep that consistent. And as you can see, now I've done this, the red error has actually gone under here. We'll come to the end, we'll open and close brackets, we'll come back to this line, and we'll just put defines all the states the flashlight can exist in. And then inside the brackets, we're going to say flashlight off. And we're going to say that's equal to 0, comma. We're going to say flashlight on low. That's going to be equal to 1. Now, if you don't understand this, we will actually be creating the switch block in the next lesson, and I'll explain how these works. Just remember, computationally speaking, it's better to have the actual numeric values. You don't need to do that. You can use it without, but it is better with them. And we'll just keep going. We'll just create the other ones. We're going to say flashlight on high. That's going to equal 2, comma. And we're going to say flashlight flashing. And that's going to equal 3. Now, just be aware there's no comma on the last one. And just a word of note, with things like this, we always start with a value of 0, not with a value of 1. So just remember that. And that's why we start at 0. Many things in coding, we start with 0 rather than 1. So remember, first one 0, no comma on the last one at the end. And we'll save that off there. I think we'll leave it there for this lesson. So we've actually got all of our variables in place, which means in the next video we can start to do some more fun things. But as I say, we'll leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope to see you for the next video. And until then, as always, bye for now.